Today, the United States seems to have presidential scandals as a regular occurrence. Almost so many that citizens no longer really pay attention or care anymore. However, it wasn't that long ago when a presidential scandal hit that caused this president to currently be the only US president to ever resign from office. If you haven't guessed by now, I'm referring to President Nixon back in the early 70s. For the older viewers, I'm sure you remember the Watergate Scandal well. Welcome to History in Their Words, and for this video, I'd like to recount Nixon's resignation from George H.W. Bush's perspective, who was the chairman of the Republican Party at the time, and later became the 41st President of the United States. I tried to find someone that could sound like President Bush because his voice and tone are pretty recognizable, but I came up short, so for this account, you'll have to put up with me for this one. Bush's account was taken from his diary, so it reads a little bit more like a written shorthand version of the account. We'll try to make it sound as good as possible.
And so we leave with high hopes, in good spirit, and with deep humility.
We'll start the story on the morning of Nixon's resignation farewell address on August 9th, 1974. There's no way to really describe the emotion of the day. Barr and I went down and had breakfast at the White House. Dean and Pat Birch and the Buchanans were there in the conference mess. There was an aura of sadness like somebody died. I saw Tricia and Eddie Cox in the Rose Garden. Talked to them on the way to the ceremony. President Nixon looked just awful. He used glasses, the first time I ever saw them. Close to breaking down, understandably. Everyone in the room in tears. The speech was vintage Nixon, a kick or two at the press, enormous strains. One couldn't help but look at the family and the whole thing and think of his accomplishments. Then think of the shame and wonder what kind of man is this really? No morality, kicking his friends in those tapes, all of them. Gratuitous abuse, caring for no one, yet doing so much. When he used the word plumbers in his speech, meaning it as laboring with his hands, the connotation was a shock to me. I remember Lieutenant Colonel Brennan, who has been with him so long, Marine, standing proudly, but with tears running down his face. Rabbi Korp, a brand new friend on the scene who told Kindle he wanted to start a Support for Ford committee, thrilled with the limelight, coming in and standing around and looking for special attention, ending up sitting next to the cabinet. People who have labored next to Nixon's side forever are not invited. It's weird. The Nixon speech was masterful. In spite of his inability to totally resist a dig at the press, that argument about hating, only if you hate do you join the haters. We walked through the bottom lobby to go out. After the Ford swearing in, many of the pictures were changed with a great emphasis on the new president. We went over and hung around waiting for the swearing in of Ford. And then the whole mood changed. It was quiet, respectful, sorrowful, but in one sense upbeat. The music and the band seemed cheerier. The talking and babbling of voices after Ford's fantastic speech, crowds of friends, indeed a new spirit, a new lift. I walked through the line and the president was warm and friendly, kissing the wives, telling Barr he appreciated my job, and on and on. It was much more relaxed. There of course were a lot of people that didn't know what they were going to do. There was great turmoil in that sense. I went back to the National Committee and addressed them. I tried to identify with the feelings I am sure they all felt, of betrayal and distrust and yet pride. I told them we had been through the toughest year and a half in history, and yet I now felt we were coming in on an optimistic period. I told them that the president asked me to stay on. All in all, it was a pretty good meeting, although I felt drained emotionally and tired. Compared to a lot of events that the United States has seen recently, especially with presidential elections and the presidents themselves, This seems like a pretty tame or small incident compared to these days. If you remember the Watergate scandal, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. It's interesting to see everybody's perspective and how they remember history. Thanks for watching.